The Ukraine crisis now is at the forefront when it comes to coverage of international relations. What's happening? How is the United States of America and her allies going to react to the aggression that could, or the invasion that could take place from Russia into Ukraine? To answer all these questions, I'm being joined by a senior researcher at the University of Florida in the United States of America, Dr. Tatsiana Kulakevich. Many thanks for joining us over here, Dr. Tatsiana. If I could begin with you trying to explain what was the trigger for this recent crisis.
Well, in this case, after there is a lot of tensions in the region these days. For example, there have been ongoing protest activities, 1 year ago, that started 1 year ago in Belarus. Alexander Lukashenko of Belarus has been unleashing a brutal crackdown. Belarus has more than 1,000 political prisoners these days, and that's unprecedented number. And Kazakhstan, that's another country that experienced protest like merely a week ago, and security forces were sent to the country to suppress the protests. They were called as peacekeepers there. And the Ukrainian public have been leaning west after the annexation of Crimea in 2014, and also declared that they want to apply for the European Union membership in 2024 and join NATO. So Russia wants to keep Ukraine in its sphere of influence. At the same time, it also is moving military forces into the Belarusian territory for joint military exercises. But at the same time, it is kind of the military on a territory that's not just threatening Ukraine, but also already in Belarus, and that's also threatening the
Well, there is a lot of crisis brewing within Ukraine as well, and I'll ask you to touch upon that. But before that, let's just talk about the military prowess. Now, 100,000 soldiers, Russian soldiers at the Ukraine-Russia border. We are looking at Russia now not backing down and telling the West that they're going to go ahead should the West continue interference. On the other hand, the West, United States of America in particular, has said that there will be consequences should Russia invade. In such a scenario, where do you see, in your assessment, how do you look at the comparison of military force in Ukraine versus military force in Russia, also with additional forces coming in for Ukraine from NATO?
Yes, that's a great question. I expect that the full-blown military invasion of Ukraine by Russia is unlikely. Russia may give some fire into the ongoing conflict in Eastern Europe, in Eastern Ukraine, which it does not is claiming that is not involved. But current military buildup is the comparison is Russia has much less power than the United States and Europe combined. So Russian economy is 14 times smaller than the United States ones and 10 times smaller than the Europe's ones. So, for example, if war happens, which God forbid, and I think it's unlikely, the United States and Europe will be able to rebuild its military. Russia will not be able to. So current tensions that are happening right now, as they are saying, 85,000 soldiers were put on the high alert. It's before the talks that will be happening next week. Negotiations will be were arranged, and Europe and the United States are talking about possibilities for avoiding this conflict because they have different offers to make to Russia, for example, Nord Stream using Nord Stream gas pipeline.
Yeah, that's an important aspect. Now, you spoke about negotiations between US and Russia, so let's stick to that. The Russians have put a proposal with questions to the United States of America. They have to respond in a week's time. You think US's position will change a little to bring them to a diplomatic solution?
Well, Russia has been achieving already kind of advantages and demonstrating force to its domestic audience. Russian President Vladimir Putin enjoyed very high rankings when he annexed Crimea in 2014. Currently, he's demonstrating forces and strengths to its domestic public. And he already brought the United States for the talks several times while he has been building the presence on the Ukrainian border. They were ineffective so far, but right now, United States and Australia and the United Kingdom already ordered their citizens to leave Ukraine to protect their citizens. This buildup on the Ukrainian border is unprecedented. It's the first time in history this buildup is happening on the border. But basically, Russia is building up tensions. They are hitting the situation right now to improve their odds, the probability that the Western countries actually will offer him something more than the previous talks were doing.
Kulakevich, now you spoke about military strength and you've given a comparison that Ukraine plus NATO would be way more powerful than Russia, and also recovery of Russia is going to be more difficult. But let me ask you this then. What about commitment? For Russia, commitment is 100% because Ukraine is a bordering nation. For the United States of America, committing, even if they're talking, will they walk the talk? Because they've just come out of Afghanistan. They're in no way going to put their troops on foreign soil again. So when it comes to commitment, will these pledges really work, or is it all to create a perception, to create a narrative? West accuses Russia of creating a narrative. Russia accuses the West of creating a narrative. But where do you see the commitment lie?
Well, currently we know that the United States already is sending the equipment already sent. So it's a fact. And the United Kingdom is also, it's a fact. They are supporting Ukraine with, let's say, the United States, as far as I remember, $200 million worth of military equipment they already sent, and they will keep doing that. So that's some kind of commitment. I agree with you that some of this commitment might be questionable because Europe is divided, and Putin has been using this, and he knows that because some Western politicians for a long time have been advocating for cooperation with Russia, and then joined its companies, energy companies like Gerhard Schroeder. Right now, Austria is talking that they will not sanction the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline if sanctions will be imposed. So but at the same time, like both commitments are questionable because Putin will lose a lot if he openly invades, and he knows that the United States is sending. They look serious, but Europe might be divided in this case. So both commitments have, they are not 100% clear. Well, and the United States should be demonstrated more force. Europe should be more divided, obviously. That's why Putin feels impunity and is actually acting out and hoping to demonstrate force, for the domestic audience and gain in this domestic this international talks with Western powers as tensions are increasing on the border?
Well, it is not just military, but also the economic aspect. Now, US has talked about financial sanctions, and those sanctions can really hurt Russia. They already have been quite sanctioned. But in the event of an invasion, if there are sanctions, then can Europe sustain itself without gas from Russia? Russia will certainly not be able to sustain herself without getting the money from selling gas, but can the rest of the world sustain themselves without Russian gas?
Well, as already Germany is not committed in support of, for example, Germany, the news from Germany were that it's not allowing Estonia, for example, to support military equipment to Ukraine because it has its interest. It is the first country that will be benefiting from the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline if it is completed and start operating. And again, Austria is interested, and that actually increases Russian domination in the gas, and that gives more leverage to Russia. Yes, it's possible to sustain European economy and gas, but Russian gas is cheaper than they might be receiving without it. And economy matters a lot, and Putin sees that it can disunify, it kind of interfere in unification in European actions, because they need to act as a unified force, and he is already dividing them, and that's his achievement already.
And divided house within Ukraine as well, with majority now really looking at and will be repelling any kind of act by Russia. But what's your assessment of how the situation is on the ground in Ukraine, politically speaking as well?
Yes. Before the annexation of the Crimea in 2014, Ukraine could be explained as a divided country, where the western portion was looking at Europe, and the eastern portions were looking in the Russian direction, in the eastern direction. However, Ukraine has been hurt, and it has been hurting since 2014, because it was not just annexation of Crimea, but the armed conflict on the eastern border in Donbass. So that actually galvanized Western leanings of the Ukrainian public. So they are more unified than ever these days. And the Ukrainian current president, Vladimir Zelensky, came to power on the campaigning again, for stopping the armed conflict in the eastern Donbass. More than 81% of all Ukrainians look at Vladimir Putin, Russian president, negatively these days. It is the data from September 2021. And Vladimir Zelensky, Ukrainian president, told his people not to panic, saying that it's not the first time for them experiencing Russian aggression. So he has been assuring Ukrainians in Western support as well, and they are on full alert, and they are preparing. Same as when the news come that 85,000 soldiers are on a full alert from Russian side, same is happening in Ukraine. They are on a full alert.
Right. Now, before I let you go, Dr. Kulakevich, according to you, in your assessment, do you think there could be a conflict or a limited conflict in the Ukraine-Russia border in the coming future, or you think it's far-fetched and that there are long negotiations that are underway and it could solve itself out without actually going to war or a conflict?
Well, I believe that the full-blown conflict is unlikely, because the stakes are very high for Russia, and it will experience consequences. The Western powers are stronger economically, and it will be hurtful for Russia, even though We see the divided potential to divide the European powers. It's possible. No one likes bloodshed as well. If Vladimir Putin is trying to increase his ratings, approval at his home country, then he needs to demonstrate strength without bloodshed, showing his audience that he has strong strengths without and smart brain to bring Western powers to table, basically manipulate them and being able to protect his home country, Russia. So it's possible that this conflict on the eastern border might be reactivated. Also possible that it might not be done openly because Russia is claiming it's not involved, and that also will be portrayed by the propaganda in Russia as a smart move. And to again demonstrate strength. So I would say that it's unlikely that the full-blown conflict is going to be happening. The negotiations will be, it's possible to avoid it.
Right, but again, I have one last question for you. You think battleground Ukraine is pushing Russia and China closer to the disadvantage of the West, and certainly certain concerns being raised in the United States of America that Biden administration is losing focus by focusing and putting all energies on Russia while they should be focusing on China?
Well, a lot of moves by politicians can be questionable. So, for example, the one when Biden met with Putin and waived the sanctions against the construction and finishing of the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline earlier. A few months ago, it was also raised a lot of questions from different sides because it is essential for Ukraine to not have this gas pipeline, and for the whole geopolitical situation, he wanted to achieve friendlier relationship with the European leaders and made the move as a friendly move, but it has consequences. So it's not surprising that the questions are being raised again for any move that American president or any other leader is doing. So it's not the first one.
Is it making Russia and China come closer? And is that becoming a formidable opposition to the West?
So for China cares the most about economy. It does not want to involve, for example, in Belarusian conflict, for example, when Putin has been backing Alexander Lukashenko in Belarus. China is not, for example, is not going to be supporting Alexander Lukashenko in his political endeavors. It cares about the way to benefit economically and deal with Europe. So in this case as well, politically, China will not be, is not interested. So if it's going to hurt it economically, then possibly something might be, some deals might be made. But China is very strategic in this case. Yeah, for any,
very transactional.
Yeah, it's very transactional. It moved from Ukraine to Belarusian territory when Ukraine started having problems, difficulties in military regard after 2014. It just switched its focus on different ways to achieve its own economic interests.
Absolutely. Dr. Tatsiana Kulakevich, many thanks for joining us here on India Today. Indeed, great perspective. We'll keep coming back to you as and when things unfold on the Ukraine-Russia front. Thank you so much for joining us.